So as we reflect and think about the International Clinical Trials Day 2025, what comes to mind is the 4 objectives for the program that I lead. And it reflects on the partnerships that we've built so far in terms of advancing our work and enabling the environment that thrives for the clinical trial ecosystem in Africa. The first objective that we focused on as a program is increasing investments. And when we look back to when we started this work, the investment in the clinical trials in the continent was at 2%. At the moment, this has shifted to 4%. What that means is that there has been a shift of investments, and this is evident in the ecosystem and also in the work that has been ongoing. A good reflection point for us is changes in the regulatory space. For example, many countries right now have moved from maturity level, moved to maturity level 3, according to the WHO standards. The second thing is in terms of advancement, in terms of research work, and also, advancements towards vaccine research, and also products that are being developed in this space. A good example that I can mention here is previous work from Professor Thumbi Ndungu on HIV vaccine recently that was announced globally. Another good example in this space is the responses from different African countries when faced with epidemics. The recent Rwanda response towards Marburg and the recent Uganda response towards Mpox shows clearly that there has been an increase in terms of the capacity towards response for epidemics and pandemics in the continent. Our second objective really looks at how do we build trust, and trust in the research space is quite a critical component. So trust between the patients and the researchers that are conducting this clinical research, trust between the researchers and the industry, trust between the industry and the product development partners as well as regulators is quite critical. And trust for us is a virtue of how much information is out there about the clarity of the clinical trial ecosystem in Africa. So the work that we've been doing has been focused on how do we increase the visibility of the capacity in the continent, how do we showcase this capacity, how do we create dialogues that advance trust between all these stakeholders. And we're very happy about the advancements in this space, evident from the kind of outputs that have been achieved so far. The third objective that our program focuses on is on building the capacity. And through the work that we've been doing over the last 7 years, we've managed to collect a lot of data that shows the clinical research capacity, where the clinical trial sites are located, what their capacities are, as well as how the regulatory space looks like. So when you combine all this information, what you get is a very clear picture about what the existing capacity looks like, but at the same time, what the gaps exist. And we've utilized this data on the capacity gaps in the continent to showcase areas of investment. And we've engaged with the industry, we've engaged with the funders, we've engaged with the national governments to ensure that these challenges are being addressed and addressed where they're needed the most, to ensure that African lives, from a health perspective, are being focused on from an investment point of view. The last objective for our program is sustainability, but also to ensure that as we're building this capacity in the back of the work that has been going on in the continent, then we can sustain it beyond the years of investment that are currently being done in the continent. And what that means is that there has to be visibility of what's happening in the continent from a clinical research perspective, but also how do we ensure that funders are talking to each other, researchers can share the outputs of their work to avoid duplication of efforts, but also to ensure that there is clear visibility of the capacity to allow for more investments. So sustainability is also a very clear element of how we drive our work, and to ensure that all the partners in this space are engaged actively to ensure the sustainability of their work in the clinical research space.